Welcome back to Out of the Woodwork. Today we're going to talk about Rod Blagojevich. Politics is something that I steered away from for my entire life. Up until 2019, while driving over the road during the pandemic, I had a lot of free time. The roads were open. I'd listen to, I swore every second of music at least 10 times over. So the music got boring, which was, I never thought would happen. Got into listening to what was going on, researched the coronavirus, the vaccines, the boosters, all that stuff, Robert D. Malone, everybody behind the corona issue. And that politics, that led me down other rabbit holes with politics. And back in 2006, I'd met my first politician in person, which was Rod Blagojevich. That's today's topic. Rod Blagojevich. He was convicted of corruption and fraud back in 2008, along with some other folks. And he was sentenced to 14 years in federal prison. Trump got him out. He served right around 10, I believe. His buddy Tony Resco, I think did 8. And 3 of those years was in solitary confinement for his involvement with that 2008 whole corruption scandal thing, which was, something that, Blagojevich, they were bugging his phones, and same with Obama. A lot of other people during that same time period were under investigation for fraud and corruption. A lot of folks just abusing politics, especially in Illinois. It's just like a history here. That's another relevance. I do live in Illinois, and we have it's the 5th largest state, and we have the most corruption out of any state. It's like every governor that has ever come through here is just very corrupt. The current governor, I'm not too impressed with myself. But getting back to Rod Blagojevich, I was not a fan of Rod Blagojevich. I shook his hand. It was a very weak handshake. That was back. I was very young when I shook his hand. That was, it was early 2000s. I want to say it was like 04 or something like that. I can't really remember. That stuck with me forever. And then here recently, Trump's last presidency, I saw that Trump was, he was releasing him from prison. He was going to exonerate him. And I got to looking into that. I was like, what's going on there, And here recently, with all the podcasts, Inmate 2424 Blagojevich has been on. I listened to quite a few of them. The latest one with Tucker Carlson, that one was pretty revealing. The information that he gave out during that podcast really opened my eyes. And even going back to 2004, I was a big fan of Obama, huge fan of Obama, and all this ties around Obama. And Blagojevich was a big fan of Obama too. So when former Senator Barack Obama was running for presidency, the first black man ever that got elected, that's an absolutely incredible milestone that we achieved there. That's incredible. That went a long way. And folks like Blagojevich knew that, as well as a lot of other folks. Tony Resco, which was Obama's money man. That's the guy that helps raise funds for Obama. David Axelrod was a big fan of Blagojevich running for president, as well as Obama. He's wrapped up in this as well. We'll get I'll try to go over as much of this as possible. There's so much going on here. It's absolutely insane. Tom Balanoff was Obama's guy. He was the one reaching out, third party to Blagojevich about replacing Obama in the Senate seat. I do apologize, you guys. I'm new to this. I get kind of I'm all over the place, especially with this podcast. So I appreciate you watching and trying to keep up with this case. The Obama really surprised me. I was a huge fan of Obama. I voted for Obama. My first chance to vote was second term Obama. I was a big fan of Obama, and then I started learning more. The connections I had in the military were telling me what was going on during that overseas, and nothing I heard was anything I wanted to be a part of, and nothing that I voted for, and it did totally opposite direction of the person that I thought I voted for. So him coming to find out that when they knew that he was going to win the presidency, Barack Obama and Michelle Obama both did everything they could to get everything they could out of that whole transaction, as well as picking who was going to take over that Senate seat, which Obama wanted Valerie Jarrett, Michelle Obama's like best friend, it was her bestie. She wanted her in there. She told Axelrod. They told Axelrod that Jarrett was going to be she was more than qualified. They wanted her in the White House, but she would do fine and a qualified candidate for the Senate position, Barack Obama's former position. I mean, they tossed around many ideas. Oprah. Yeah, Oprah, and then there was Halle Berry. That's what it was. Sorry, my brain's everywhere. Halle Berry was one of them, and Blagojevich was caught on tape saying, you know, if we can get her in here, which the stipulation was she had to live in Illinois for a day, you know. So let's get her in here for a day, and he says maybe I can, you know, F her, have, you know, intercourse with her. That'd be part of the deal. And that's another thing that people should realize with this whole thing is that there was never any negotiation as far as like funds transferred or anything like that in lieu of like them getting their pick, whatever they wanted out of Blagojevich. They didn't even discuss anything as far as like if there was corruption, if he was taking like a bribe to put somebody where there was no discussion of that money or anything like that. There was nothing discussed that he was convicted on, and it all comes from Obama. There was a call that Balanoff made election night to Blagojevich that says, Barack called me last night. He wanted me to talk to you about Valerie Jarrett and, you know, taking over that Senate seat. He'd like her to be appointed as senator. He wanted me to ask you what you would want. Can I call you? And Blagojevich was like, yeah, we'll set up a meeting or something. And it was like the very next day that Blagojevich was arrested, which was convenient. So, and there was so much going on during that time, even back in like 2004 with Barack Obama coming to Blagojevich about Michelle Obama working for, was a Northeastern college in the medical, or Chicago. Northeastern said, and she had a salary that she demanded. She wanted a $200,000 to $300,000 annual salary for that position at either college. That's a demand, you know. That's, hey, you're going to hire either one of these. I want you, Blagojevich, to get her, you know, to use your position to sway either one of these colleges to hire Michelle Obama, my wife, and give her a job, $300,000 a year, which she ended up getting through University of Chicago. That to me is pretty corrupt. I don't know. And what else did they ask for? They asked for a lot, and they hit Resco up. They wanted a huge property. They hit Resco up. They wanted the adjacent property. Resco said, yeah, we'll pay for it. They didn't have the $750,000 to put down, so Resco paid for it. And then they put a fence in, a wrought iron fence, and then they charged Resco for the fence. And then later, after finding that out, and later that they convicted him, and Obama did nothing to help him. He did 3 years in solitary confinement for a deal that Obama originated. I find that very strange. Especially that Valerie Jarrett. I mean, Valerie Jarrett did turn down that offer, though. And who did we get instead? Roland Burris. David Axelrod. We got Roland Burris directly after that. Oh, man. Operation. Patrick Fitzgerald was the guy that was investigating Blagojevich originally. And after almost 5 years, a failed attempt to not only get him, but like 15 other people in corruption, that's when, they hit Blagojevich with that the sale of the Senate seat, which like we discovered, it was all Barack Obama. Barack Obama called Blagojevich, Barack Obama had negotiated through a third party, Balanoff, and Balanoff wanted to meet with Blagojevich and go over with Blagojevich the deal of getting either Valerie Jarrett or somebody else in that Senate seat, which, like I said, they kicked around the idea of Oprah and the actress Halle Berry, which would, wild. It's absolutely, you can just buy yourself in any position. It's insane. So basically, and most of the people that were involved with convicting Blagojevich were eventually promoted and went on to work bigger positions, especially, side by side with Obama. Yeah, and I found it, in my research, I found it really odd. So during the campaign fundraiser, which Tony Rezko, he was convicted with Blagojevich over this. He was the fundraiser, the money man for Obama. Now I'm looking at Obama's fundraiser for when he ran for Senate, and we're looking at $14 million in fundraising, $14.96 in fundraising. Of course, they only spent $14.3, so I wonder where that other chunk of change went off to. That other $600,000 ran off to. But his opponent, Alan Keyes, raised $2.8 million. So I'm curious why it took $14 million for Barack to get that. That's strange. But he got that contribution and all those funds raised by Tony Rezko, and they ended up screwing Tony Rezko over. And when he had an opportunity to help Tony Rezko, he just acted like he didn't even know the guy that helped Obama through his whole career, and helped him buy that massive property and then the adjacent property next to him. And both Tony Rezko and Rezko's wife helped the Obamas a lot, and the Obamas just kind of threw him under the bus after this whole deal. Now, Obama was under investigation along with all these other guys during the same time period. But from Blagojevich's observations, he stated that he believes that once they found out that Obama was really looking like he was going to win first black president, they immediately backed off of Obama, and then Obama started making deals, and it looks like he negotiated his way out and used the system to incarcerate anybody that would have had any evidence that he was involved in any of that corruption. The tapes were sealed. They weren't allowed to play all the tapes, the calls that were made. And Barack was in on some of them, not all of them. They used emissaries, third parties, to communicate. Fitzgerald, his attempt in this whole thing, it really looks like he was trying to cover up his failure as well. Tom Balanoff said he could be a strong witness for federal prosecutors who have charged the governor with trying to sell the president of Barack Obama's old spot in the U.S. Senate. Involved in secret recording conversations. Blagojevich regarding the Obama vacancy. Well, those recorded conversations, not all of them were released, so that's really strange. So I'm going to go over. We'll play a little bit of that podcast with Tucker Carlson, if I can get in there right. Again, guys, I do appreciate you guys watching this to any extent. I'm very new at this. This is something that I've been wanting to do for a while. I consume podcasts for years, and I struggle to come up with topics. Here recently, this Blagojevich thing has really got my head scratching. I have the ADHD, and my organization skills are piss poor, so getting all this together was a bit overwhelming at first, and then trying to get into the politics and just saying Obama's name, I don't know, man. That honestly, my wife was real uncomfortable with that. She's like, "Are you sure you want to do that?" And it's like, well, I was struggling with topics, and this topic in particular really struck a chord with me. Mainly because I met Blagojevich and I was a fan of Obama, and come to find out all the corruption that Barack has done, especially involving this one case, is insane. It's kind of insulting to us that we're kind of tricked into believing he is something that he ended up not being. The Blagojevich case, when it comes to how they were able to convict him, is kind of strange because there was no law. He didn't really break a law per se. There's no evidence that he actually did anything. So what they did is they used a jury to prosecute him. They convinced the jury that he did something wrong, and then that's how they were able to prosecute him. It was a derelict of the judiciary system. They just beat the corruption allowed them to convict somebody without them breaking a law per se. Like, there was no real evidence that a law was broken. So they used the jury to do that, and I think that's just strange how they were able to do that. That's not the first time they were able to do that. My brain's too mushy to remember another instance, but there was another instance that I discovered through my research in this case that was very similar.
A name you can't say, his name, he could do it. And 2 years later he did, and he got the opportunity to give that speech in Boston, which was his William Jennings Bryan moment, right?
Oh, yeah.
He electrified the crowd with that speech.
I was there.
Yeah, so was I. I turned to Bobby Rush, the congressman, former Black Panther, morality. And, Tony Rusko's the guy who bought this lot next to Obama's home. And one of the things I write about in my book is that when I was governor first, and then Barack won in 2004, I was asked to make a phone call on behalf of Michelle Obama, because as soon as he won the Senate race, she wanted a job either at Northwestern University or the University of Chicago hospitals for $200,000 to $300,000 a year.
That's wild.
Wife of the new senator. And
that's a weird demand.
Was she specific about how much she wanted?
Yeah.
And she was specific about salary?
Yeah, and I think Northwestern. We should double check this, but I think my recollection is good. I think Northwestern was willing to pay $200,000 to hire her. This is the wife of the new U.S. senator, and federal money for.
This is back
things like that.
2004.
And then they got a better offer at the University of Chicago, which is in Hyde Park, where they're from, $300,000, and she ended up working there. And
not much.
Called to help because you help people in politics.
She got paid $300,000 to do very little.
Wants a job, I'll make a phone call. He didn't get it. She didn't get it because of me, but it didn't hurt to have the governor call it.
See, and so Barack got a hold of Blagojevich and was like, "Hey, persuade these colleges to give my wife a job." I don't like that. That's just, I don't know. Oh.
You get those moments. Then you say to yourself, it ain't about me.
We'll swing into this. I should have had this all clipped up for you guys. I do apologize.
You get those moments when you find yourself in force. Well,
speaking in prison terms.
Exactly.
Inmate 2424.
He sure did. And it just gave me strength and drew me closer to God. I'm not running for anything, so I'm not giving any BS to your listeners. It was just real. And
it sounds like the guy really found himself in there too.
Good, but I'd have moments over the years where I would actually feel, some sort of real unique connection to God. And it was.
He found a way to be grateful for what he went through too. I found that amazing.
And he talked about
strengthened his entire family.
Thank you, prison, for what you did for me, because but for what you did, I would not feel as close to God as I do now.
Boy, that's just such a remarkable perspective, such a non-American.
That's amazing.
Thank you for prison.
Thank you for prison.
That's what he said. Yeah, that's what he wrote. I'm not quite going that far.
But I think what you're saying is that suffering turned you into a different man, a better man.
Yeah,
as life will do, but he experienced just absolute corruption.
Things that really matter most in life, like the people in your life that you love, and the appreciation for the simple things that maybe you were, a little bit less aware of because you were so busy in the race of life to get ahead, right?
No iPhone must have been nice.
Let's get on with this.
To take God out of the support of LGBTQ.
I'm sorry for skipping around here.
Sermons from Martin Luther.
I was trying to find.
Yeah, so he destroyed and what does he get for that? He gets rewarded by being some big commentator on CNN, and people, local Democratic prosecutors, many of whom had some political backing to get their jobs. And I discovered they are, in my case anyway, and I don't want to speak generally about everybody, but they're so corrupt. You can't get a fair trial.
Well, look at Andrew Weissman. It's at the very top, was a truly evil man.
Evil.
And, Weissman, I'm sure, was smart, clever anyway, and certainly well-credentialed and has almost unchecked power. I mean, it's crazy that exists.
So he destroyed Arthur Anderson with fake law. That's what they did.
Fake law.
They just make it up. They just move lines to get the convictions.
This is what I was talking about.
The court took the case. And Weissman's standard that used to destroy Arthur Anderson and cost all those people jobs, 9-0, the Supreme Court ruled. He was wrong. That wasn't the law.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so he destroyed and what does he get for that? He gets rewarded by being some big
promotion
on CNN, and people listen to this guy like he's honest.
It's disgusting.
It is disgusting.
So what, not to get sidetracked,
sure.
What is the Daily fam? I think Rich Daley's still alive, right?
Yes.
What do they think of the modern Democratic Party, Kamala Harris? What do they think of that?
So Bill Daley.
Yeah, of course.
Ran for mayor of Chicago while I was in prison.
Yeah.
And shockingly got his ass kicked in the new Chicago.
So another thing to note during this, Blagojevich's father-in-law was involved in Chicago politics and was also corrupt. Wanted something out of Blagojevich, didn't get it, and aided in this corruption deal against Blagojevich.
And that's when Lori Lightfoot was elected.
Yeah.
The new kind of mayor in Chicago, right? She was a big failure and she got defeated soundly. But the fact that a Daley could lose in Chicago was another reminder that, boy, times have changed.
Different population in Chicago.
Very different demographic now. The city that used to be, diverse racially, very strong, it's still, black population.
Yeah.
Still in the poor, bad, rough neighborhoods. A big Latino population, but it was a city of white working class, white ethnics.
Yeah, Central Eastern European peoples.
That's right. Large Polish population.
Huge Polish population. I met a lot of them.
That element is gone now. They 2-3 generations. They've worked hard to build better lives for themselves. They take advantage, like our friend Philip over here.
Yeah.
Working.
All right. Let me find some information on his wife's father.
I mean, I think most people thought Obama free and begin to protect yourself. So what role did Obama
This is what I was looking for.
I mean, I think most people thought Obama was like a sign that America was getting healthier, healing.
Mm-hmm.
Free and begin to protect yourself. So what role did Obama play? I think most people thought Obama was like a sign that America was getting healthier, healing from, past trauma.
That's what I thought.
That he was a sign of hope.
It was for me.
Super evil. But when did you realize that Obama was not what he seemed to be, and what role did he play
This year.
in the disaster in his life?
He started the whole thing. My story, the book that I'm writing, is a story that started with him on
free and begin to protect yourself. So what role did Obama play? I think most people thought Obama was like a sign that America was getting healthier, healing.
That's what we all thought.
Past trauma and all that.
He proved us wrong.
Sign of hope. And then it just got super evil. But when did you realize that Obama was not what he seemed to be, and what role did he play in the disaster in your life?
He started the whole thing. My story, the book that I'm writing, is a story that started with him on election night in 2008. It was magical, First black person, half black. Mom from Kansas.
Yeah, election night,
Elected president.
he went to Balanoff. Election night 2008, Obama went to Tom Balanoff to get a hold of Blagojevich about the Senate seat and who he wanted to appoint for that Senate seat, which his pick was Valerie Jarrett, a friend of Michelle Obama.
We both came up together in politics, had good relationships. I was introduced to him by a guy by the name of Tony Rezko.
Tony Rezko is Obama's money man. He's the one that helped raise campaign donations, contributions, and so forth. It was, in fact, back in 2004, he helped him raise $14 million for his the race for the Senate.
I think that name is familiar to you. Who's not nearly what the guy who's been portrayed. I mean, businessman, very practical, extremely generous to Obama and good to Obama, helpful to both of us, raising money and things like that. And when I was elected governor, he would come to me with requests from Obama, and a lot of it were appointments to high positions in state government. I was 2 years ahead of Obama.
Resco, if you haven't caught on, is Obama's like monkey boy. He just does whatever he wants.
In terms of going to the next level, because I was the first Democrat governor elected in Illinois in 2002, and with this long and hard to pronounce last name, which was kind of cutting edge at the time, because for the most part, Illinois was electing guys with Anglo.
Blagojevich was under investigation from the drop 2002 because of prior corruption in Illinois Senate or Illinois politics. Patrick Fitzgerald was already had them underneath his looking glass. He's keeping a very close eye on everybody involved in Illinois politics in the early 2000s, which Blagojevich got to experience.
Names are Irish names. We had Thompson, we had Edgar, and we had Ryan before me.
All those guys went to prison.
Well, Ryan did, yeah. Thompson put Governor Kerner in prison. That's another story. But so because of the former governor that he prosecuted, he also wanted to have under his belt 2 prosecutions. So that is more fuel to what ended up happening to the Blagojevich. And I won.
It's like being a first lieutenant in Vietnam. The odds are bad.
Right, exactly. Right,
yeah.
The death rate. But I think, in some respects, I should apologize to the American people because I might have had something to do with Obama's success, because I think he saw that if I won, and I could win downstate, the rural areas, and deep southern Illinois, which is the American South, a guy like me from Chicago, he could do it. And with a name you can't say, his name, he could do it. And 2 years later, he did, and he got the opportunity to give that speech in Boston, which was his William Jennings Bryan.
That was a good speech.
Oh, yeah. He electrified the crowd.
That was a good speech.
Yeah, so was I. I turned to Bobby Rush, the congressman, former Black Panther. I said, Bobby, just think about that. As soon as you got done with that speech, you're the only guy who's ever beaten that guy in an election. Because Obama challenged him in 1998.
Oh, wow.
But no, I thought Obama was all right, kind of cold and impersonal, but okay, and I was happy to be helpful. But he's one of the more selfish people in politics on a one-on-one level, and he's not pure like the driven snow in the sense of his ethics or morality.
And we found that out with those drone strikes.
Tony Resco's the guy who bought this lot next to Obama's home.
Now, this is messed up. Wait till you hear this.
And one of the things I write about in my book is that when I was governor first, and then Barack won in 2004, I was asked to make a phone call on behalf of Michelle Obama, because as soon as he won the Senate race, she wanted a job either at Northwestern University or the University of Chicago hospitals. Which
is ridiculous. So as soon as he gets in, he's like, he gets a hold of Blagojevich and says, hey, I want Michelle, I want you to reach out to these 2 universities and persuade them to hire my wife, Michelle Obama, for an annual salary no less than $200,000.
For $200,000 to $300,000 a year, the wife of the new senator. And I was asked, would you call? And
was she specific about how much she wanted?
Yeah. If a man really...
Yeah, so being specific about how much you want is, it's kind of odd. That's very strange. The whole thing is just all corrupt. And Obama, like I said, he was under investigation before this.
Yeah, and
along with Blagojevich.
Northwestern, we should double check this, but I think my recollection is good. I think Northwestern was willing to pay $200,000 to hire her. This is the wife of the new U.S. senator, and federal money for, Medicaid and Medicare, things like that. And then they got a better offer at the University of Chicago, which is in Hyde Park, where they're from, $300,000, and she ended up working there. And I called and you help people in politics, and the guy's wife wants a job, I'll make a phone call. He didn't get it. She didn't get it because of me, but it didn't hurt to have the governor call and say, hey.
Right. Didn't hurt to have the governor call and say, hey, you should hire this person.
One of 2 hospitals for between $200,000 and $300,000.
That's correct. Yeah, and she ended up working at the University of Chicago.
Wow, that's exhausting. It's very exhausting. To mitigate exhaustion, I would recommend Kill Cliff. I'm only plugging this because I'm thirsty. This stuff is amazing. They got different flavors. It's like pre-workout, ready for you in a can. I chose the Smashing Citrus for like a morning. That's like my morning Joe. All natural freedom, no sugar, electrolytes, naturally flavored. Ingredients that don't suck. Navy SEAL Foundation official partner, created by a Navy SEAL for those who aren't Navy SEALs. Killcliff.com. Ignite.
He was probably positioning himself to see which.
He's going to go over when Barack Obama got a hold of Tom Balanoff to get a hold of Blagojevich. That's how Barack did it. He used emissaries, third-party emissaries, to communicate this. So he's going to go over the communication between Barack Obama, Tom Balanoff, and Tom Balanoff and Blagojevich.
Which one of us might have the better chance? And he picked the right horse eventually because Obama was the right one. And, of course, Obama's success and my calamity.
He's talking about Axelrod and Axelrod's choice between endorsing Blagojevich or Obama for the 2008 presidency.
Parallel, right? And so you ask me, this is a long answer to your question about 55 minutes ago, what did Obama have to do with my problems? Was election night, we're there, and a labor boss by the name of Tom Balanoff, Service Employees Union, big supporter of both of us, came up to me. This Grant Park in Chicago, beautiful weather, magical, historic night.
If I remember right, Tom Balanoff is like an Obama apologist or something. Like he's an Obama kiss ass.
And he said, Barack called me last night. He wanted me to talk to you about Valerie Jarrett. He'd like her. Valerie
Jarrett being Michelle Obama's friend.
Very close friend of Michelle Obama, by the way. He'd like me to appoint her to the United States Senate because the governor has to appoint the senator. And he wanted me to ask you what you would want. Can I call you and come and see you and make an appointment? I said, of course, call me.
At that point, no deal had been made. No deal had been discussed. They didn't even talk about exchanging money.
Tomorrow. We'll set something up this week. That's how it started. And then the next day, I got done running. I went out and ran like 8 miles that day, 7 miles.
It's impressive. I can't even run 5.
I'm laying on my little family room floor, stretching. I'm not back, and I'm talking to one of my aides, and I said, Balanoff called. Apparently Obama sent him to me. Obama sent him to me. He wants to make a deal on the Senate seat. What should we do? What should we think about getting? Pretty legal stuff, not, give me cash or anything. Which was it.
And Blagojevich, he was thinking, he was really thinking smart about this too, because we just got Obama as president. Obama's Senate seat's open, and they're like, who would you pick as his replacement? He wanted somebody of ethnic origin and with a military background.
The illegal political horse trading, which eventually is what the Supreme Court, the appellate court said it was. And then I say, and unless I do something, significant, this will be in my obituary. I said, so-and-so had suggested that we just kiss his ass and give him whoever he wants. But that seems like that would be political malpractice, and we have a golden opportunity. We have a real opportunity here to, do something meaningful. And then I said, I know, this is effing golden. I'm not giving enough for nothing.
And that was repeated on the news feed a long time.
I didn't realize it, but let me say something to your listeners. When you're in Chicago politics and the ethics in that place and the way they do business and the way the feds not wrongly necessarily try to set people up to see whether or not they'll take a temptation. They send people in to offer you cash and stuff like that. You'd be an idiot if you don't think they may be listening. I'd been under federal investigations for 5 years. I knew it because of the rest of the stuff and other stuff. People who were supporters of mine and Obama. I thought it's all very possible.
You notice that he said Obama was in that investigation. But after they discovered that he was really poised to win the 2008 presidency, Obama was taken off. And then they started pursuing Blagojevich heavy.
And everything I'm talking about doing is legal. And I was super careful because I was under such intense federal investigation at that time to make sure that anything I talked about doing, I checked with my governor's lawyer and lawyers. And my lawyer was on average, on all these FBI tapes, they taped my calls. To this day, 98% of those tapes are covered up under a court seal. The judge would not allow us to talk about how my lawyer was on those calls 3 times a day, because at that point, now you know they're coming. You want to be absolutely careful that whatever you do on this Senate seat is legal, right?
Yeah.
So,
I bet he was on his toes the entire time, and he, as you can tell, he knew that he was under investigation. He knew, being in Illinois politics, that he was going to be under extreme scrutiny. So why would he involve himself in this? There's nothing. I mean, he was poised to. I mean, he was Axelrod's first choice to run for, to back for president in 2008, until it looked like Obama was going to do better. So I don't know.
You're throwing out all kinds of ideas because you do have this effing golden opportunity. We talked about Oprah for a couple of days, all these crazy ideas.
I remember that.
And everybody wanted it. Everybody wanted me to appoint them, as you can imagine.
And honestly, when they were talking about Oprah getting it, I was kind of excited. I grew up watching Oprah.
And, and through third parties, they're suggesting deals that were political. They weren't illegal. Some had suggested money and campaign funds, which would have been illegal. And but I would talk to my lawyer, 3 times a day, and he was advising me. In fact, one call, I say something like, we're discussing a creative way to create a nonprofit political action committee to help support the advancement of access to health care, which was a big issue for me when I was governor. That's
what he was being investigated under, was healthcare funds, amongst other people. There was many things they were being investigated for in that 4 to 5 year period from Fitzgerald, from 2002 to 2008 or whatever, or 2006, whatever. There was a time period where they were all being investigated, and one of the things was that funding.
Governor. And Obama was talking about doing Obamacare and all this at the federal level. And some of the people,
Obamacare was an absolute atrocity to humans. We'll go off on a tangent right now, and I will let you know right now that Obamacare was the single most worst decision this country has ever made. That was terrible. Some of the worst health care I have ever gotten in my life. And then I lost a job, and in between insurance, they got me for $600 that year because I didn't have insurance for 4 months. Appreciate that.
People that had put our health care plans together in Illinois went on to work for Obama. And so the question was whether or not there was something that we could do to be helpful to push it further in Illinois and do something. And could we put together a 501c3 or 501c4? Obama gets some of these big rich Democrats who give money to him to put it in our thing. And can we... that
would have been great for Illinois.
Make the deal on the Senate seat for something like this. And so I say to the lawyer...
That sounds amazing. So the deal would have worked out some of the funds from Obama being kind of put to Illinois, it sounds like.
And to one of my aides, I say, how do you do a deal?
Or healthcare.
It's got to be legal, obviously. I'm on the tape saying that. A couple of years go by, I'm at my second trial because they failed to convict me on their corrupt charges the first trial. And they're going to play that tape against me. And I'm actually charged. One of the crimes, it was that phone call. How do you do a deal like that? It's got to be legal.
Which, that phone call with Balanoff didn't get any time that I seen. What's up with that?
Obviously, I'm asking. I don't even know if you could do it. I'm just thinking out loud. And
he was cleared of all charges.
Surely I'm going to get acquitted on this. But the jury instruction was custom tailored to fit these conversations, to tell the jury that those things were criminal. And they can convict anybody if they do that. Yeah.
See, they were able to convince a jury. I don't know if I agree with that. That makes me uncomfortable.
They decide, for example, that this conversation you and I are having, and they charge us, and then they got to prove it before a jury, and they got to judge us willing to do anything they want them to do. All they got to do is just write up a jury instruction. 12 laymen, average, everyday, ordinary people, aren't lawyers, aren't in politics. Just tell them this is against the law.
That's all it takes.
And they'll make the right decision. They'll convict you of this.
They convinced a jury that he did something wrong.
It's against the law.
So, big picture, why do you think they did this to you?
Here we go.
The Democratic establishment did this to you.
Well, they were Bush prosecutors that started it. Here's what I think happened. So
Fitzgerald.
That's right. That guy's so dirty and rotten and corrupt.
Fitzgerald was corrupt.
Yeah.
Is corrupt.
Here's what happened. They came at 6 o'clock in the morning and arrested a sitting governor. I mean, I was Roger Stone years before Roger Stone, right? My little girls are sleeping ready to get up shortly for school. My little one at the time,
Big Pharma.
5, and she was in bed with us. And I got up at 6. I was going to actually go run that this winter. I was going to go run. I had my running clothes laid out. Phone rang, and I thought it was a friend of mine. The guy says, we have a warrant for your arrest, and the agent so-and-so. I had state police security all the time as the governor. And I thought it was a friend of mine. I say this a lot because he's like that way, and I really did. I
He's
said,
like, nah, there's no way.
And I said, come on, just start effing around at 6 o'clock in the morning. But it wasn't him. It was really the FBI with a warrant.
Fucking insane.
I think they got me, handcuffed me, drove me to their facility. By 4 hours later, by 10 o'clock, they were...
Did they really have to do all that? Couldn't they just said, hey, man, we need you to come in, and then if he resists, then you do that?
Cop.
They did that on purpose.
You're not a bad
That's a
guy.
political
You
move.
your tapes, you're just a product of Chicago politics. They wanted me to cooperate. I believe my interpretation was they wanted me to talk about Obama. I don't think they were ever going to go after Obama at that point. First black president. But I think they wanted to see whether or not I would, here's a prison term, snitch
Yeah.
on the president-elect and then go back to him and say that. They probably told him that anyway because they lie. In any event, I said, I was never involved in any wrongdoing with him. I don't know whether he's involved in anything of that sort. I can tell you I'm not, and I got nothing to talk about. Whatever I discussed was politics. And then they got it. They changed their attitude. They shipped me to another facility, the court building, and put me in a small little cell. And they had me next to this really angry guy all caught up on PCP, screaming.
He sounds like he had some fun in prison. Now, I'd like to move on to his father-in-law's involvement in his conviction.
The role that duty would compel them to play.
Mm-hmm.
They seem to be covering for the people in power.
Oh, man. Duty would compel them to play.
Yeah.
The fourth estate, a free press and a free society. You don't have that to check power.
Yeah.
We're dead, right?
Unfortunately.
So that's kind of what I naively thought when I'm sitting in the back seat of the FBI vehicle, handcuffed behind my hands. I'm the governor of Illinois.
Wild.
It's the fifth largest state in America.
Not the first one to get arrested
Now they got
or convicted.
And I said, well, what's this about? And the guy said, the sale of the Senate seat. I said, what? First of all, you got to be a horse's ass to think that you can get away with something like that. I'm going to sell Obama, any presidents, but Obama at that time was a demigod elevated by the media.
A demigod elevated by the media is precisely why he wasn't pursued further with Fitzgerald's investigations in the early 2000s, leading up to 2008, when they stopped investigating him because it looked like he was going to win and set some historical grounds. I mean, what he did, that was historical.
Okay, all superficial bullshit about how great he is. But I'm going to be that stupid where I'm going to actually try to sell his Senate seat?
Right.
And I'm already under intense federal investigation for Bresco and some of these other guys.
For like 5 years.
And, activists in politics and stuff, and they're trying to find crimes they can't find it.
And Resco was already under investigation for like misuse of funds and like corruption and things like that. And that was Obama's like secondhand man. That was his bestie, man. He bought him a property.
5 years from now, I'm thinking the media, they're not so great, but the media is certainly going to laugh them out of court before they get into court. Who'd be so stupid to do something like that? And the reality was they were all over it because it was just too super sensational to pass up. It sold newspapers. It was good for ratings.
It was good for ratings.
The storyline and the truth, abrogating their responsibility to all of us as citizens to keep an eye on the power. The government has no power. These federal prosecutors have all the power, unchecked power, not foreseen by our founding fathers when they divided our government. They didn't know that there'd be a branch out of the executive part of the government, an agency out of the executive branch that would grow like a cancer there. Originally going after the Al Capones of the world, right, and now taking that power to all kinds of levels to turn it into a political.
Which, I mean, the Al Capones of the world, like you said, they were put in place to take care of those folks. And that kind of brought them back around to him because Illinois' politics were wrapped up in the mob, the whole mobster thing, the Capones of the world, if you will.
Then it becomes the secret police.
There you go. Yeah. This is why the work that you do, Tucker, and I mean, you're so nice to me, but I'm grateful to you for what you do, and others like you are fighting for freedom, and Elon Musk and these guys.
Which is
free speech.
Corrupt. I mean,
This is why I'm here.
to say aloud what it is, which again is corrupt and evil.
Everybody needs to know.
Yeah.
So,
Dick, along with whatever they asked and didn't ask for any political bartering, you think nothing would have come of this?
Oh, no, I would have. Oh, you mean just political?
If
barter?
you did, if they came to you and said Obama would like you to put this person in as senator, if you just agreed to it, you think none of this would happen?
No, I think they were going to do whatever they did to get me no matter what.
Why?
Because they had spent so much time and money. 5
Fitzgerald.
But why did they do that? Why'd they come after you?
I think that I think part of it has to do with a lot of it has to do with the actual U.S. attorney. His name is Patrick Fitzgerald. He and James Comey are real close. It's this sort of FBI, DOJ type people who've become part of today's Department of Justice, and they feel like they're a power center of their own right, that they're this new political place in American government. They are so dangerous to our freedoms in this country. I think it was largely that. He had convicted the previous governor, Republican governor, Ryan, of crimes that he had committed when he was the Secretary of State of Illinois. And so now he could be the first guy in history to get 2 straight governors. And I think it was that. I think he wanted to leverage Obama to keep him in office so he could finish the job and get me after investing 5 years. And he came up with nothing. That's why they invented the crimes from those conversations. And if anybody doubts this, and I fully understand why people would, the question I'd ask people is, will you tell me what side is lying? The side that refuses to play 98% of the tapes that they made? Or the guy that's saying play them all, warts and all?
Yeah, it's kind of obvious. Almost like pre-pardoning somebody.
Or whatever the case may be, or using profanity. They already played those. But play those tapes. What are you hiding? The side that's hiding is the side that's lying. And they're hiding it to this day. They covered up all those tapes. They wouldn't even let me play them in court in the second trial, even though they promised that I could play them if I testified at the second trial.
That's wild. Wouldn't let them play the tapes that would implicate everybody else involved, including Obama. Balanoff and a few other folks that would have implicated them. But they wouldn't allow those tapes to be played. Pretty strange there, eh? Well, we'll go ahead and close this up. It's getting dark on me. After all the research and videos I've watched with this Blagojevich thing, the one thing I am convinced that he didn't break any laws. What they convicted him of, they used a jury and they convinced a jury to convict him of corruption that they determined was corruption that was brought on by Barack Obama through Balanoff and Tony Resko. Resko seems to have really taken a hit from this. Obama kind of abandoned him after setting him up. And it's just real sad to see this happen. And in politics, I think it's important for everybody to see what these people really are. And Barack Obama was somebody that I used to hold up on a pedestal. And after hearing everything that's coming out here recently, it's completely changed my mind. And I feel like a sucker and a fool for being tricked into believing half the things that they said. And it is now kind of like my mission to reveal as much as I've observed. If you enjoy this type of content, be sure to follow. This is something that I plan to grow. As far as like the content, it's going to be various, much like Rogan's show and even Tucker. Tucker's more of like a political guy. I try to not to steer towards the political side, but the next podcast I'll be doing will be a little bit lighter, hopefully. It may spill into some politics, but I'm going to interview a local entrepreneur, somebody that I learned a bit from, and I think everybody else should hear some of the things he's got to say, some of the things that he's accomplished, and his ideology, I think, is impactful, and it's important to get as much information and different perspectives and ideologies as possible to make sound decisions and navigate in this world, especially in a world that is full of corruption and lies, as we've seen with the Blagojevich case. Again, I do appreciate you guys for watching. And if you're still sticking around for this video and you're like, man, this guy's hair is held position the whole time, it looks fantastic, it's because of Lockhart's Goon Grease. Lockhart's Goon Grease, as you can see, I've used a lot of this. It's almost done. Between this pomade, this is water-based, and their Dead Sea Salt Spray. This stuff smells amazing, by the way. I use a combination of two, both for the beard and the hair. It's a great hold and a nice dry, natural look without leaving your hair looking all wet and soppy like the old school like gel stuff I used to use. Lockhart's Goon Grease. Be sure to check this company out. It is a USA product. Missouri. I appreciate you guys for watching. I'm slowly getting the craft down. So now I've heard recently that Trump's press secretary has announced that anybody that's doing social media reporting has an opportunity to apply for a media license or a spot to sit at the White House and do some press. I think that'd be really cool. That may not be something I strive towards, but if that's an effect of it, that'd be awesome. I would like to bring as much truth to the service as possible from the perspective of the average man, not somebody that's been brought up in politics or any kind of climate that involves news or podcast. I'm very new. I bring a fresh perspective from the blue collar, low dollar life, if you will. I appreciate you guys for watching. Stay tuned for more as I hone this craft. And hopefully we'll catch you on the back end, and then this will turn into something amazing.